Corporate heavyweight DuPont is back in court right now, defending their decision to poison an entire community along the Ohio River by releasing a toxic chemical known as C8 into the river. Now, C8 is a chemical that's used in the manufacturing of the company's blockbuster product, Teflon. The case alleges that DuPont officials were intimately aware of the dangerous side effects of C8 exposure, but still decided to allow exposure among workers and by releasing the chemical into the environment. Once the chemicals were dumped into the Ohio River, they seeped into the water supplies of nearby communities, resulting in thousands of people being exposed to dangerous levels of C8. Complicating the exposure problem is the fact that C8 is biopersistent, meaning that it does not break down in the body or in the environment, and instead continues to build as exposure increases. Now, the case currently before the courts being handled by Mike Papantonio, co-host of Ring of Fire, and this is the second trial that Pap has handled in the last year, with the first resulting in a jury award of $1.6 million for a woman who developed a cancerous tumor on her kidneys. Now, in that case, the jury found that DuPont did act negligently, but not with malice. However, the malice argument might be easier to prove now that a host of documents have been unsealed from the ongoing trial. The documents show that DuPont was well aware of the dangers of C8, dating all the way back to 1961, and in many instances, their own environmental lawyers privately questioned the company's decision to pretend that a problem didn't exist. Now, here are just a few items found within these documents which have been made available by the Levin Papantonio law firm. In November 1961, a top DuPont toxicologist informed the company that C8 used in the production of Teflon was toxic. 1961. In February 1961, DuPont becomes aware that C8 exposure in rats was linked to enlargement of the testes, kidneys, and adrenal glands. Fast forward to September 1979, DuPont learned that monkeys exposed to high levels of C8 died, and that their workers who were exposed to C8 showed abnormal liver functions in lab tests. 2 years later, in April 1981, DuPont recognized the link between C8 exposure and birth defects and actually removed pregnant women from C8 projects in order to limit their exposure. Now, later that year, in November, 21 years after the company recognized C8 as toxic, they finally recommended limiting workers' overall exposure to C8. In October 1983, DuPont scientists grow concerned about the levels of C8 being dumped by the company into the Ohio River. So that's 1983. The company itself was concerned about the dumping into the Ohio River, which is the central issue of this lawsuit. Now, another year later, DuPont learned of the link between C8 and testicular cancer. That was March of 1988. DuPont then internally classified C8 as a possible human carcinogen. So they knew it was in the public water supply at the time, but they did not tell the public, even though they themselves classified it as a possible human carcinogen. In February of 1995, DuPont internal memos shows that the company was concerned about the potential health effects associated with C8 exposure. In August 1999, in two separate emails, a DuPont environmental attorney talked about C8, where he said the following, quote, "Too bad the business wants to hunker down as though everything will not come out. God knows how they could be so clueless." In August of 2000, DuPont's in-house lawyers again wrote, quote, "The shit is about to hit the fan in West Virginia. The lawyer for the farmer finally realizes the surfactant C8 issue. He is threatening to go to the press to embarrass us, to pressure us to settle for big bucks. Finally, the plant recognizes it must get public first, something I've been urging for over a year, better late than never. We're hoping plaintiff does not get there the next couple days. We need about a week. We boned ourselves again. Such is life in big and I suspect little companies." In 2014, DuPont finally stopped dumping C8 into the Ohio River. That was 53 years from the time that the company acknowledged that C8 was toxic until they stopped dumping it into the Ohio River. And that was 16 years between the end of the dumping and the company's acknowledgement that C8 was a human carcinogen. And not once during that time did they ever announce to the public that their lives could be in danger. Nor did the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency step forward to warn the public about the dangers they were being exposed to, in spite of the fact that DuPont had been fined $16.5 million by the agency in 2005 for concealing the dangers of C8. Now, one of the worst aspects of this story is that it continuously overlooked is the fact that DuPont has replaced this carcinogenic compound with a different chemical that could be equally as dangerous. This chemical is known as C6. Now, the current trial is going to be coming to a close in the next week or so, but there's still more than 3,500 cases left to go to trial. And as the case develops, more documents like those we just mentioned are undoubtedly going to come to light, giving us a more complete picture of DuPont's callous disregard for human life.